Chaim L'chaim. This Shabbos, this Parshas Shira, we celebrate Yam Suf, crossing of the sea. We eat Shvarza Kasha, we give Kasha to the birds on Friday. Today is 15th of Shvat, the New Year for trees, the 15th day of the month of Shvat, when the month of Shvat reaches full peak. And it's a special time, coming also from Yud Shvat, Yud Aleph Shvat. But first, there's many lessons to learn from everything together. First of all, starting with today, is 15th of Shvat, the 15th day of Shvat. What do we celebrate on the 15th day of Shvat? We celebrate the fruits of the tree, right? It's Rosh Hashanah Lilanos. It's the New Year for trees. Why do we celebrate the New Year for trees? We don't celebrate the New Year for cows, the New Year for rocks. What are we celebrating the New Year for trees for? So it says, Ki Adam Eitz Hasad, a person is compared to tree. What is the unique characteristic of a tree? Is a number of things. First of all, the tree is always growing. Human beings, after a while, they get old, they get tired, they get uninterested, unenthusiastic. They just go back in their bed and go back to sleep. But trees are always growing. Not only do they always grow, but trees represent the concept that they grow in a completely new, they create new life in a completely transformative way. They don't just grow from one apple comes another apple, from one blade of grass comes another blade of grass, but one small kernel that you put into the ground creates a huge tree. And that tree has many fruits, and each fruit has a number of kernels which you create another tree from which you could plant more fruit, more trees. Ad Ein Sof, until unlimited way. So the idea of growth is particularly associated with trees, 15th of Shvat, with everything that grows, but particularly by trees. So the lesson for human being is he always has to grow. He should never be satisfied where he is. He always has to continuously grow, and his growth, every day he has to grow, right? No one likes to be the same person he was the day before, whether for better or for worse, but you always have to grow. And 15th of Shvat teaches us that our growth has to be in a new qualitative way. It shouldn't just be you add a little bit more, but you add a new project, you add something else in your life which could have a ripple effect not only on you but on everyone else around you. So that's first of all. What's the second nekuda that we learn from 15th of Shvat? The second nekuda of a tree is that a tree, in order for it to grow, it has to be attached to its ground. It has to be attached to its source. Not everything in life do you see how they're attached to its source, particularly things in this world. Most animals, human beings, birds, right? We fly around, we walk around, we don't see how we're attached to our source. Trees, in order for them to grow, they have to be attached to their source. So the lesson is that true growth only takes place when you're attached to your source. And the growth of trees is twofold. Both the roots grow deeper into the ground, and then the trunk and the leaves and the branches spread out wider. So it means that both our roots, our deep neshama powers of emunah, yira, ava, love and fear and faith of the Eibush should have to grow and develop and mature. And at the same time, we have to also, that has to express itself in the production of good deeds, which grow bigger and larger and better as from year to year. That's another lesson that we learn. So it's the idea of bittul. You have to be nullified. A person cannot grow. A person could take a tree that is, as big as can be, but if it's not attached to its source, it's not going to grow. So in order to grow, we have to be attached to our source. Many people want to be independent. It might be good, it might be bad. It definitely, depends on the context. But if a person detaches himself from his source, he won't be able to grow. That's first of all. It's another lesson we learn from trees. There's also the nekuda that Rabbi spoke many times, that fruit of the trees, which halachically is what we celebrate on 15th of Shvat, are there to give a person pleasure. Many people, we live our life, many times we're barely trying to survive. Trying to make sure we have enough money to pay our bills. We're trying to make sure that we fulfill our obligations, we have different obligations socially, financially, family life, spiritually. And then we're basically left with no time to worry about anything else. But in a person's life, there's two types of things. There's things that are necessities, and then there's things, what we call lahavd in the secular world, entertainment, extras, pleasure, business and pleasure, right? So fruits are in the category of pleasure. Most people, today maybe life is a little different. Years ago, you need the basic. What did you need to basically survive? Bread was fine. Fruit was considered, a luxury or something. I don't know if luxury is the right word. It was something that you ate for pleasure. So the Rebbe says it means in avodah and growth, there's two types of growth. The person does what he needs to do. But true growth means that a person doesn't just live his life spiritually and physically just to fulfill his needs, just to do the necessity, but that he grows, he does things in a way of tainug, in a luxury. In other words, when you learn Torah, there's fulfilling your basic quota, and then there's doing it because you have a chayis, you have a geschmack, you learn more than you have to, you try to grab a few minutes here, a few minutes there from whatever else you're doing to be able to learn, or you try whatever it is to support people that are learning. So there's serving the Eibush there. What is the real accomplishment in life is a person that lives his life. He just does what he needs to do, fulfills his duties. It's beautiful, but no one goes to a bakery to enjoy himself. Where do you go? You go to a place that they serve beautiful food, right? Basics doesn't get you 5-star medals. When you go beyond the basics, when you grow, when you do things beyond the basics, and you do it in a way of chayas and kind of English, enjoyment, that is what what stands out, and that is what the message of 15th of Shvat is. It's not enough to we have to focus on what we need to do, the basics and necessities, but true growth is when you don't just fulfill the checklist, you go beyond that. There's another very important nekuda, which is a very, very powerful point that Rebbe spoke about a number of times. 15th of Shvat, why do we celebrate it? Because that's the time when either the fruits start budding in Israel, or some fruits start budding, or that the sap starts growing into the trees from the rain of the new year. But nothing is really growing yet. It'll take a few good months until the fruits are ready, until they're ready to come off the tree, until you're ready to eat them. You're sitting in 15th of Shvat, you're eating fruit. Outside it's cold. It's freezing cold tonight. Right? There's nothing growing outside. And what are you celebrating? You're celebrating the beautiful fruit, because when did these fruit grow? When did these fruits start growing? When it was bitter and cold. And the message is that your accomplishments in life, don't wait for the springtime when everything is blooming and everything is beautiful to accomplish anything. That might be too late. It's specifically when it's bleak and it's cold and you're unenthusiastic about life, when things are rough and tough and nevertheless you persevere, that's when you build the foundations for what will come later. So when it comes this time of the year, it teaches us that you see the fruit at the table, the beautiful fruit. When did it all start? How did it all start? It didn't start when you walked into the store and you bought the fruit that they picked off the tree. How it started, because a few months ago it was raining and was nothing growing. But at that time, the tree was storing up its power, was taking in the energy to be able to grow. So
we're celebrating that the sap started.
Yeah, that's what we're celebrating, and the realization that the sap, when does the sap come into the tree? Dafka, when it's not so exciting, when it's not springtime, when nothing is blossoming. It's you have to work hard, you have to plant a tree, you have to cultivate it. It's freezing and it's cold, and you don't see the fruits of your labor right away. But that's the nekuda. So that's one thing. So what is that? It's a very powerful hayrah, because many times people put an effort and it takes years later maybe for them to see an outcome. I remember there was I think it was Rabbi Shalom Zirkind, I think he was a teacher somewhere for many years in some Hebrew school or something. He told the Rebbe he doesn't see any effect. Kids went there, they didn't come from home, they left. The Rebbe told them, so one day you'll see the effect. I think years later he met a student of his that she became from, I don't know exactly, and she remembered everything she was taught, that he taught her. But sometimes you could see it takes years and years until you see an effect.
I had that recently.
Go right ahead.
I had that recently. I used to work in release time, and there was a there was a kid that I went to. We would do big karbayis. Went in the summer, went to his house, and spoke to the kid's parents about the taking him out of public school, sending him to Yiddish Meister. Then the mother said, "Absolutely not. You Frum people are crazy," and started cursing me out. It was a nice conversation, but she was saying about Frum people for 2 hours, saying how we're crazy. And then 3 years later, about 2 weeks ago, she said that I was right, and she's sending her kid.
No, because public schools are closed. Now they realize she was open. Public schools are closed.
She sent her kid to Beragola.
But anyway, so that's one of the nekudas we learn from 15th of Shvat. Anyway, but we also have Shabbos Shira. It's about Yud Shvat. Yud Shvat is also Basi Lagani. I came to my garden. We have to live in life that life should be a garden, a pleasurable place. Serving the Eibusher shouldn't just be a place where it's you check in and you check out. You get your lunch and your breakfast and it's over. But it should be an enjoyable place. It should be, this is your chayis, this is your taino, this is what Basi Lagani means. And this is connected with Rosh Hashanah Lilanos. It's trees, pleasure, fruits, orchards. So Gan, a Genuni, a place of pleasure. And this is also connected with Shabbos Shira. What's Shabbos Shira? Shabbos Shira means you sing. Right? People don't sing if they're not enjoying themselves. If they're not enjoying life, there's nothing to sing about. The Shabbos Shira means that you serve the Eibusher Mitech Shira in a way of song, in a way of tainug. Rebbe spoke on Tavshinun Beis. Rebbe spoke a lot about the meaning of Shira. In general, by Chassidim made a big thing about song. There was one of Chassid of Rabbi Marash. Maybe it was Rashpat. It was one of the big Chassidim, but he went into Rabbi Marash and he felt that he was lacking in his avodah. There was something that was holding him back from spiritual growth. And Rabbi Marash told him the truth is that there's nothing wrong. You don't need a tikkun for anything. So what you're missing is that you should sing during davening. You're missing the Ginah B'Tfilah. If you would sing during davening, it would give you a certain chayas that you'll be able to accomplish what Rebbe the Chassid was trying to accomplish. Rebbe Marash. So in other words, the idea is that there's, by Chassidim, the idea of song, in general, was a very strong tool that was used to serve the Eibusher, right? Strong songs are deeper than words even. But the Rebbe spoke a lot about the idea of song, Shabbos Shira. Song lifts up a person. And they use out the idea of song in a positive way. And the Rebbe spoke, there's two types of song. There's a song, a yearning song, a song where a person makes a person, feel, I don't know what you want to call it, melancholy, yearning. And there's a song of simcha, of joy. So the Rebbe said that now we have to focus on Shira Mitech Simcha. Instead of yearning to get out of Galus, we should focus on the simcha, on the joy of what's about to come. Well, this is also what happened. We're talking about in the Parsha, the highlight of the Parsha, there's many miracles. The Jewish people lived a supernatural life. Right? Beforehand, we were talking about in Parsha Shmos, Vaydav, we were talking about the miracles that accompanied the Jewish people, the 10 plagues that got them out of Egypt. But now we start encountering the miracles how the Jewish people lived for 40 years in a miraculous way. They had one falling from the sky. They had water from the well of Miriam. And Amalek came to fight with them. He was crushed miraculously. They crossed the Yam Suf miraculously. Right, so all these things is very important in Avodas Hashem. One of the things we learn from here is the idea of bitachon. Right? Why did Amalek come? Because Yidden said we don't know if the Eibusher is with us. Right? We saw these miracles, but maybe maybe today the Eibusher is taking a break. Right, so that she brings down. Right, he brings the mashal of a father holding his son on his shoulders, whatever the kid wants, he gives him, and then the son sees someone else. He says, "You know where my father is?" Father says, "You don't know where I am." Puts him down, and the dog comes and bites him. He starts screaming to his father to help him. So they had a sveikus in Amunah. Amalek is doesn't let us look beyond the pessimistic approach to life. Yiddishkeit tries to cool us off. Yeah, but maybe so. However, there's always it's always the plamatic words. You have to know how to throw it, and Amalek is an expert at that. And the parsha is that B'tochen and the Eibishter. The Eibishter Taka that did miracles. Maybe we're not, It says, the Rebbe Marash says that now Parnasa is also Lachem and Ashermayim. He said that now when people have Parnasa, it's just like in the desert that came from heaven. The only thing is, it comes through the Levushay HaTeva, it comes through the garments of Teva, but it doesn't. I think they say once a Yid once went in, and Rebbe Marash sat with him, and he showed him how his expenses outweighed his income, but somehow he managed to make ends meet for whatever reason.
If you say to the Lechem in Hashemayim, it means the rich people are getting double portion. We are the simple people without.
At any rate, the look to Lechem or image, everyone got the same by the man also. So the Nishka Hofen, there was no savings account, there was no checking account. You got what you got for that thing, that was that.
So maybe we should have it that system.
Perhaps, but anyway, the Baal Shem didn't sleep. The Rebbe said that certain tzaddikim didn't sleep at night if there was any money left in the house. You know that? Baal Shem couldn't sleep. If there was any money, he would right away go late at night.
Me of the same.
Late at night, he would go give it to a poor person. They say about another tzaddikim, sometimes they couldn't fall asleep. They looked around the house and they found the coin. Oh, that's why they couldn't sleep. What did they need to have money by themselves? As poor people, they need the money. They gave them the money. So the Nekuda is that the Parshas Hamon, right? Some people have a school to say Parshas Hamon past Tuesday, school for Parnasa. And anyway, but the Nekuda is, the best school for Parnasa is that when you have B'tochen, you realize they b'shefir the Welt. Sometimes need to have a Kriyas Yamsuf, sometimes you think that the sea needs to split, but the sea could also split, or it does split. But you have to have B'tochen. If you have B'tochen, you have Shira, you have Simcha, you have pleasure, you have Tainug, you have growth. Void V'ikar, as the Rebbe says, that right now, in general, we sometimes feel that our spiritual endeavors, or our physical endeavors, is Hazayv Medima, as Moshe mentioned. We're planting with tears, things are tough, physically, spiritually, v'chulu. But the Nekuda is, Brino Yiktzayra. The end of the day is, as the Rebbe says, that the Tzmicha, the time of Galus, is the time when we plant things in the ground, and things take root. The full blossom, the springtime, when people Mashiach will come. So the Nekuda is that Rosh Hashanah Lilanas teaches us that just because you don't see things blossoming, but that's precisely all the blossoming that will happen in the future comes from the time when it was bitter and cold and harsh, and that's when the trees got all the energy that they need, that they're going to grow later. So the time now of Galus, when we're challenged with all these things, it's the Avodah now that makes a difference, and that's what's preparing for the future. So l'chaim, we should all have our New Year for trees. We should grow physically, spiritually, and we should grow in a way that we should have. The Gula should also grow, right? Mashiach is called Tzemach. Why is it called Tzemach? Tzemach means he starts off as a shoot from the ground, a small little root starts from the ground and turns into a big tree. So we should have the growth of Tzemach. Coming of Mashiach, take us from Yad Mamash.
Amen.